So start off with an empty directory. So I've got Prisma API directory. If you run npm init-y, we're just going to set up the project before we get started on writing any code. So now that that's added, we should be able to open this up in Visual Studio Code, which is here. And we've got package.json, is good. So we've got a fair few things to install. We'll start off with dev dependencies, because that's the most dependencies. So if we do npm i-d, then we'll do @types/node @types/express Prisma TypeScript tsc-watch and also ts-node, and we install them. And now we can do the actual dependencies. So npm i, and we'll do express.env pg, which is the Postgres driver. We're going to be using Postgres for this video. You can use MySQL or something along those lines. You may need to change some things if you're using MySQL, like a different driver for the database. So I would recommend just using Postgres for the sake of this video. So pg and @prisma/client. So install those. You will also need a Postgres database, of course. I'm going to be using Docker for that. So if you don't have Docker installed, well, you might be out of luck on this one. I'm just going to be using Docker. You may be able to use Prisma's actual database platform, which is I took a look at it, and it looks quite good. So you might want to look at Prisma's database platform to get your own database. But it uses the Prisma schema to set up that database, I think. So you might have to just look into that one. I'm sure there's other places where you can get. If you don't want to use Docker, you might want to look and see if there's anywhere where you can get a free database. I know MongoDB Atlas does a similar thing with MongoDB, where you can get like a dev version of the database just for free, which is quite good. So that's it for that. Let's add the scripts that we need to run to our package.json file. So we don't really need this one in this video, but for the sake of completeness, I guess, we'll add it. So node dist/source/index.js. So this is the command you would run in production if you wanted to start your API on a production server. You'd run npm run start. We'll do dev, which is of course what we're going to be running locally. So this is tsc-watch. If you're not familiar with tsc-watch, it keeps an eye on your TypeScript files, and when you change it, it will compile your TypeScript or transpile, I guess is the word, into JavaScript, and then run a command after that. So we'll be running basically this command up here, but yeah, this uses on success, and then \quotes node, and then /dist/source/index.js \quote. Then we'll do seed. So this will actually be what runs our seeder for Prisma, which we'll cover a little bit later on. But basically, seeders just populate the database with some, starting data usually. So like maybe a user will get created, something like that. And this is going to use ts-node Prisma/seed.ts. So this can actually run the TypeScript file directly, which is why I installed ts-node. And we can also do build, and this will just be tsc. So this will actually build our dist folder. So that is it for commands. what we'll do is create the Docker container. So if we do, I think I'm going to have to stop my other Docker container. Bear with me. Okay, so for the Docker command, we do docker run -- name. So this will be the name of the actual container. So we can just do Postgres DB. Then we'll do -p 5432. So this will expose the port 5432 from the Docker container, and then on the local machine it'll be the same port. Then we'll do -e, all caps, Postgres _ password, and this can be whatever you want, but we're doing it locally, so it could really be just password. -d to start it in the background, and then Postgres is going to be the image we're using. And then enter. Let's hope that works. There we go. So now we should have a database, which is good. We will add our index.ts file, which is basically going to be the only file we're doing in terms of code. So let's create a source directory. Actually, before we do that, I need to initiate Prisma. So if I do npx Prisma init, and this will do a couple of things. So this adds an env file for us. As you can see, it's got lots of comments up here, which have got some more information which you might want to look at. But it adds this env file, and it's got a database URL, which is good. So if you use Docker, our username is just Postgres. The password is just whatever the password you put in. So in my case, it's just password. And it's going to be /Postgres, like that. So what I would recommend doing, because you don't want to commit this .env file, because obviously it's got all your secrets in it, what I would do is create .env.example, and then you would commit this, and what you would do is you would just put in the values you need without the actual values themselves. So you can see we've got database URL equals, but then we're not actually going to include that. This just gives, like, if you needed to give this to a new developer, it would just give them an idea of what they needed. So they obviously need a database URL. So that's good. It also adds a .gitignore file, which is useful. What you probably want to do is add dist here as well, because when we generate the JavaScript, it's going to generate in a dist folder, and we don't want to commit that. So we've got node modules, .env, and then dist. So it also creates this Prisma folder, which has got the schema in it. And again, it's got some more information up here you probably want to look at. But it's got some information already here. So we've got generator client, and then we've got the provider. So the idea in the future, I don't know if there's any more providers at the moment, but the idea is that Prisma would be able to be used with any language, I guess, if they have the right provider. So at the moment, we're using Prisma Client JS, so that's obviously the JavaScript version, but there could be like a Prisma Client C, C++, that kind of thing. So yeah, this probably isn't going to be something you need to worry about, but you just need to add this. Obviously, it does it for us, which is quite useful. Then we've got provider equals Postgres. By default, I think it uses Postgres. You can obviously change this to MySQL or whatever you want to use. Then we've got the URL, which is just the URL to the database. So the good thing about this schema.prisma file is it can access env variables automatically. So it automatically reads your .env file. So when it does this, it can grab the database URL, which is quite useful. So let's add our index.ts file and do the sort of basic boilerplate for our API. So if we do index.ts and start adding in basic boilerplate. So we want to do import, and I don't know if we actually end up using the .env stuff, so this might not actually be necessary, but we'll do it anyway. .env/config. We'll import express from Express. we'll initialize express. So we do const app equals express, like that. And then we'll do app.use express.json. So any JSON data comes in, we can pass it. App.use express.url encoded. And we'll do extended true. And we've got some endpoints to add. So if we do, and I'll put some comments here to just make it easier. So we do get all posts. So basically what we're going to be doing in this video is some kind of blog almost for, or what API for a blog. So we'll do app.get, and we want this to go to /posts. And we're going to do async, rec, res, and next, and next. Like that, and we may as well copy this. So pretty much everything we do is going to be following this basic, obviously the URL is going to be different for some of them, but we're going to be using this async function here, so we might as well just copy it. And this is going to be to create a post, and that's actually going to be the same URL, but we'll do post instead, and we'll obviously fill all these in later on. Again, copy that. So we'll update a post. So you can see we're going through all the CRUD actions. Create, read, update, delete. We'll do patch for this. Patch. And then we'll obviously need an ID to know what we're actually updating. And next one is going to be delete a post. I think I missed one out here. Hang on a minute. Delete. We'll get this done first. Yeah, I missed out the one where you actually get a post by ID, which will be up here. So delete. Yeah, that's fine. We'll just do another get here. So get a post by ID. And then we need to do app.listen. And we'll do 3000 for the port. And then we'll pass in a function. And that'll do console.log. And then app listening on port 3000. You might want to do the port as an environment variable, which is what I usually do. For the sake of this project, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, usually I do port as an environment variable, and then I can use it here and here without having to just manually write it twice. So I think we're going to do one more, and it's going to be a get. So we might as well copy that. But what we're going to do is get the posts that belong to a user. So get a user's posts, and that'll be /users /ID /posts. There we go. And that's, we'll be looking into relationships as well. So that is our API minus the Prisma code done. So let's have a look at the schema, and let's start writing this. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a model for the user. So this is going to have an ID, and the ID is going to be int, and we're going to use this @ID, which gives it some special functionality, and then we can do default and auto increment. So this is one of the things I like about Prisma, is it just got all these things that make it quite easy to do things. So like default, you can add default values. In this case, it can do auto increments, which is great for IDs. We'll have email, and this will be a string, and this will be unique. Next thing we'll do name, and this will be a string. And if we put a question mark here, that basically says that it's optional. Role, so this is actually a this isn't relationship, sorry, this is an enum. So role, this is going to be a custom enum type that we define in a second. We can set the default as user. Let's just add this enum type. So we've got enum role, and that's going to have user and admin. So the user can be either a user or an admin. By default, we'll just use a user. And this is the relationship. So we've got posts, and then post, square brackets, and that'll do. So this is going to be a one-to-many relationship. This is how we would do this, and then we're going to define the inverse now. So we'll do model, post, and then similar to before, we'll do ID, int, ID, and default auto increment. We'll do title, that's going to be a string, and then we can do at db dot, hang on a minute, db dot, and then it's got all these options here. We'll do varchar 255, so we'll limit it to 255 characters. We can do published, which is going to be a boolean, so we'll do published, can't even type, boolean, and by default we'll just set that to be false. And then we can do created at, and that's going to be a date time, and we'll set the default to be now. Then we've got updated at, and this is going to have another sort of special Prisma thing, which is going to be updated at. So what this will do is when we save a post, it will automatically update this updated at date when we save it, which is quite useful. So this is going to be the relationship. So author is going to be user at relation, and then inside of here we specify fields, and this is going to be author ID, which we'll add in a second, and then it references ID. And if we add the author ID, and this is going to be an int, so we'll put that as a question mark because it might not have an author. Basically what we're saying here is when we're looking for the inverse, so up here we've got posts, and what this will do is look for posts with an author ID that's equal to this ID, the user's ID, and it's the same with the inverse. We're basically looking for users that have an ID that is the same as the author ID. But yeah, this is how you do a relationship, or at least a one-to-many relationship in Prisma. So it's really easy, and querying it is even easier, which is really nice. So now we can run npx Prisma db push. So something to bear in mind about the push command is this is for when you haven't fully got your schema set up yet. You're still experimenting to get a somewhat of a stable version of your schema. So because this is actually quite stable now, this is all we're going to be adding. But we'll use push for now, and we'll look at migrations a little bit later on. So if you run, sorry, npx, not npm, npx Prisma db push, and hopefully that works. So yeah, that seems to have worked. So the only difference between push and the dev version of migrate, I think, is that it doesn't generate the migrations. I think that's the only difference. So it makes it temporary, as opposed to if you generated the migrations, that would become more permanent. So now we can actually run npx Prisma Studio, which is quite good. This will basically give us like a GUI for looking at our models. So if we look at this, so we've got all models. So you'll notice post and user from our schema. So we're clicking to user. We can see we've got ID, email, name, role, and posts. So this is pretty cool. So these are all our columns that we've defined. And then we've got posts, which isn't a column, it's the relationship. So what this will do is when we add a post, it will show up here. If we give a user ID of, let's say, user ID of 1, and we have one user here, it will show all the posts for that user, which is quite useful. So I'm going to put this on my other screen for now, and then we're going to use that later on. It's going to be really useful. So now that we've got that running, what I'm going to do is create the seeder so that we can create a user. So seeders are really useful for when you're wanting to get up and running really quickly. So if you were to pass this code base on to another developer, they would be able to run the seeder and get some data put in already, and then they'd be ready to go, which is really, really useful. So we'll create a new file called seed.ts, and what we're going to do is import Prisma client from Prisma/client. And I think it's worth noting that when you run db push, it generates the Prisma client. Now, this is something that's really quite cool, is that Prisma client lives in node modules. So using your Prisma, it basically generates all of the code for you. So we'll see that in action in a second. So if we do const Prisma equals new Prisma client, so this is how we initiate Prisma client, and we'll create a function. Function can be called whatever you want, but we'll call it run. Run. It doesn't actually need any parameters. And we can do const user equals await Prisma, and then here's where I think it gets really cool. Prisma dot, and then you've got loads of stuff, but you've also got post and user. So the reason why I like this is because all of your models are all just accessed through this Prisma object, which is really, really useful. If you look at my Node.js API from scratch video, every model has its own file, which gets a little bit messy. And also, I mean, that's completely fine, but it is a little bit messy. If you watch that video, you'll probably be like, oh, I'm creating models constantly. So having something like this, where it's all in one place, and you can actually have multiple schemas, by the way, in one file. You just have to specify the destination when you're running the migration. Or at least I think you can anyway. That's what I've been reading in the documentation. That seems like more advanced usage. But yeah, everything in here, basically each of these models gets turned into code, and that you can access through this Prisma. And it gives you all the functions available and stuff, so you don't have to create a separate file for each model, which is quite cool. Like I do in that database. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just this feels much cleaner to me. So we can access user, and we can do upsert. Now, upsert is basically, it will, if it can find the what would you say, the row in the database, the row in the table, sorry, it will just update it, but if it can't, it will create it. So that's quite useful. So we'll do where email, and then we'll say user@example.com. So what it's going to do is it's going to look for a user with that email, and then we'll do update. So we don't actually want to do anything. If it finds the user, we just want to leave it as is. So we'll just do that as an empty object. But for create, we can do email user@example.com, and the name we'll just put, you can put whatever obviously, but I'll just put Jason. So as you can see here, the thing I love about this is that everything is, because everything's typed, you can do, it tells you everything that you could possibly search for. So if we wanted to search for more things here, and we did colon, I don't think that'll work actually. If we do, hang on a minute. So email, there we go. So we can search for the email, and it just automatically comes up when we press E, which is quite nice because everything's typed. So yeah, we'll just go back to what that was. So email, there we go, that's fine. And then we can just log that user to the console just to tell us that it's actually been made. So if we do user, and then we need to run this, so we'll do run, and then dot catch. So this will be if there's an error. We can just print out the console.log e if there's an error. Process.exit exit 1. I'm getting all this from the docs, by the way, so I'm not too sure if that process.exit is completely necessary, but I'll add it anyway. So finally we do async. And what we want to do is disconnect, so we'll do Prisma dot, and then it's got $disconnect. There we go. So that is our seed done, and obviously earlier on we added the command seed, like that. So we can just run this and hope for the best. So that's gonna, yeah, I'll open up a new tab. So npm run seed. And let's hope that works. There we go. I don't know what this segmentation fault is. I noticed it when I was testing this code base out. I'm sure that's fine. So we get Prisma Studio up again, and we click this button up here, and we refresh. We can see we've got a user, and it's got these posts here. Obviously, we don't actually have any posts, but it's pretty cool that it shows up like that. One thing to note is you can actually edit stuff from here. So if I put JSON1 and then save changes, or JSON2, sorry, that worked. Save changes, and you can also add records and stuff like that. So if you just quickly need to add something, then it's really useful. But yeah, for now, put that back over on my other screen, and we will flesh out this index.ts file and actually start making some requests, which is quite cool. So index.ts. So each of these is going to have a try-catch. We need to include Prisma, sorry. Import, and then Prisma client, there we go. And then we need to start Prisma client up. So if we do const Prisma equals new Prisma client, like that, perfect. And then we do try-catch. I don't know why it's added an extra try there, but one thing to know is that we need to give this a type of any. This is really weird, by the way. I don't know why it's doing this, but if you try and do, and we are going to be using this next, by the way. So let's say that something failed and we needed to log the error. So we do error.message. This usually, it doesn't seem to do it now. That's weird. Yeah, so that usually throws an error. And if it does do that for you, then the solution is just to do that. Give it a type of any. It's a bit weird. For some reason, it's not doing it now. But yeah, when on my other code base, which is literally the exact same code base as this, it was telling me that there was an error. So I'm not too sure what's going on there. But yeah, if you do get any errors, this should solve it. So let's actually return all the posts. So we can do const posts equal, and then do await. Now, await is very important. I made this mistake earlier. I didn't await and it didn't return anything. When you're doing stuff like this that interacts with the database, you need to await because you won't actually get the data back. Well, the data will come back, but you'll have already returned the request. So just make sure you do await prisma.post.findMany. And what we can do is, and this is why I love Prisma, is we can do wheres and stuff really easily. So it's just an object, and then we're going to do published. Published. There we go. Published, and then that's going to be true. So this is basically us getting all the blog posts that somebody should be able to see. So ones that aren't private, and then we can do order by, and we can do order by created at, and then we can specify created at. And then we can specify descending. Did I put it in wrong? Hang on a minute. Created. Okay, so I just called it created. Okay, that should be created at. I don't. Yeah, let's just call it created at. Hang on a minute. So this will give you a good example of how we would do this. So we can do npx Prisma db push again, and this is why it's great to do this without creating the migrations, because we're just messing around and we're just experimenting with the schema for now. So we can very easily just run that, and it will recreate the schema, and it may have reset the data as well. I'm not too sure actually. It might be fine. Okay, for some reason it's given me post created does not exist. Okay, I'm not too sure what it's trying to do here. Post. Yeah, it's not reset the data, I don't think. Ah, you know what it is? Okay, yeah, I think I get it. It's because we need to restart our Prisma Studio, because Prisma Studio was using the old version of. That's something to bear in mind. It's using the old version. It doesn't automatically update the. I guess the schema's based on the old schema, and then when you regenerate the schema and the Prisma client, it doesn't regenerate it for this instance. I guess this because it's running on Node. So yeah, you just need to rerun that command, and then we get the. There we go. It says created at there. So perfect. And that was easy. Well, besides having to redo the Prisma Studio command, but. Yeah, that's one to know for the future. So yeah, that's now created at, so that works now. I just typed it in wrong, so that is fine. What we're going to do is do res.json and posts. We can return posts. Now we don't actually have any posts, and we need to do this one first. This create posts endpoint to actually create a post. So once again, we'll do a try catch. We do a try catch for all these, because we're using await, or async await. So if it throws an error, we need to catch that error. Let's do const post await. Oh, do equals prisma.post .count.create, and the data that we pass in here is going to be from the request. So this may be a bit confusing, but the first thing we do is author ID, by the way. I think we still have that user, unless it reset the data. Oh no, we still have that user. Or you should do anyway. So author ID is going to be 1 now. Usually, if this was a real API, we would probably get the author ID, or the user ID in this case, from the authenticated user. So we'd be able to access the user's ID. Obviously, in our case, we don't have any middlewares that can do that, and it's not really, it's sort of out of scope for this video. So we're just going to add a 1 there. And then, using the spread operator, we can do rec.body. So this ends up being really... Sorry, not rec. Yeah, there we go. This ends up being quite a nice way of doing things. What I would recommend you do is use some kind of validation package like Joy, and add that as a middleware, and then do all your validation checking in that middleware. And that will make sure that rec.body contains only values that would belong in post. So for example, rec.body should be equal to something like this. So it would have title, and then whatever the title. And it may also contain published, and that might be true. So it basically contains an object with these 2 values in, or it should do. If you had a validation middleware, you'd be able to check that it's got title, published, and then let's say it's got something else, something more nefarious, like author ID, and it tried to set the author ID to like 3 or something like that. Your validation middleware could get rid of that. Like I said, I've got my Node.js API from Scratch video, which goes into all this stuff, so check that out. So that should be enough. What this will do is it'll create a new object with author ID 1 and then what was in rec.body. In our case, we're going to pass through the title and the published boolean, which I just showed in that example. And then res.json will return the created post. And then similar to what we did up here, next error.message. So this is just some really basic Express error handling. So that should be fine. Then we've got get a post by ID. So again, try catch. Error, I'll do any. That error is not actually coming up, so I probably don't need to put any like this, but I'll do it anyway. And then I'll just put next error message. And we'll do const post equals await, and then prisma.post and then we can do find unique. So this is quite good. We can find things based on unique values. So in our case, it's going to be the ID. So we'll do where ID, and then we're going to be using rec.params.id. So the problem is rec.params.id is a string, and Prisma is expecting a number. So what we can do is we can wrap this in number to convert it to a number, like that. That's easy. And then we do res.json, and we can return this post that we get. And there we go, get a post by ID. Simple as that. We'll test all these later, by the way, so I will go through them. So once again, try catch with any type. Next error.message, and then we'll do const post equals await prisma.post.update. And we've got a similar scenario here as we had before. So we'll do where ID and then number params.id, and then we'll do update. Sorry, not update, data. And then that'll be equal to rec.body. And then we can do res.json and return the post. So that'll update it. Now we've got delete, which is probably the easiest one to do. So next error.message. Let me just put this as any. Oh, you know what? I think I know why it's not doing it now. Bear with me. So I've just realised I forgot to include the tsconfig, which is why it's not doing it. So okay, we'll finish off these API endpoints first, and then we'll add the tsconfig. I can't believe I forgot the tsconfig. That's like the main thing for a TS file, for a TS project, sorry. So we'll do const, oh, not const, sorry, we'll just do await. We don't really need to do anything more for this one. We're not actually going to return anything, so there's no point trying to get something. So we'll do delete where, and then ID, and once again number, and rec.params.id. Oh, I still can't type after all this time. I still can't type for my tutorials. So this is the last one. Probably the most complicated one, but even then it's actually not too complicated. So this is going to get a user's posts. So we do another try catch and any next error.message, and we do const users with posts, and we do that equal to await prisma.user.findUnique, and then we do where ID is going to be number rec.params.id, and in this case the ID is actually the user's ID, not the post ID like it was up here. And then something new, we've got include, and then we do posts. And the cool thing about this is that we can even add queries to this as well. So we can do post where, and we'll do published is true. So we'll get only the posts that we're meant to see from that user. And that's it, that's as easy as that. What we can do, this user with posts is now going to have the user and posts. So what we can do is we can do const posts, and that'll be equal to users with post.posts. So we can either return the user and the posts, which will just return it. It basically adds, you'll have the user information, then a posts array, I guess, with all the post objects in it. Or we can just get the posts and return the post on their own. I think it makes more sense to just return the post on their own. If we were doing like some kind of blog, we would just want to get the posts for the user. So we'll just return the posts, and that should be fine. So that's our little API. Fairly straightforward, and I'll put the code for this on GitHub, by the way. Just putting that out there. So that'll be in the top comment or in the description. You can have a look. Before we do anything, let's just add this tsconfig file, tsconfig.json, and fairly straightforward. It's just going to be compiler options, and we'll do lib ES 2015 module common JS. The output directory is going to be /dist, and strict is going to be true, and then ES module interrupt is going to be true. Alright, so let's see what it's telling us is broken. Nothing. Look at that. That went well. So that is pretty much everything done. It might be worth running... Yeah, it might be worth running the migrations now. Just before we test everything, sort of at the end, we'll run the migrations. So we'll do npx prisma migrate dev. So this will be the command you run on your dev environment to create the migrations. -- name, and this is the name of the migrations, and that'll do. And it'll probably ask me to reset the data, I think. And we'll see if it does that. Yeah, so that's fine. Okay. So that'll get rid of everything. What we'll need to do actually is stop Prisma Studio and start that again to keep it all up to date. So that seems fine. Yes, so what we need to do is npm run seed to get that initial data for the user. That's fine. Let me check that that's there. Okay, good. So now we can actually get testing it. Oh, by the way, this migrations folder, it needs to be committed along with everything else. So if we have a look in there, it's got migration lock.toml, and this just makes sure that the provider doesn't change. I'm not too sure why that. The provider for the. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. If it's using a different database, it would need to change some things. So this locks the provider in. So if you want to use Postgres, you have to keep using Postgres, basically. Then we've got the migration folder that we just created. So it's got init, which is the name we gave it, plus a unique ID. And in here, it's got all the SQL that gets ran. So it creates the role, enum, the user table, the post table with all the things that we've specified. and then some indexes and foreign key stuff. So, and that would get committed, and then on production you would run basically the same command, except it would be, I think it's migrate deploy, something like that. And yeah, it just works a bit differently. I'm not too familiar with what the differences are exactly. You can read about it in the documentation, but it'll take a little bit of time to get to grips with what's actually happening. But that's fine. So yeah, that's everything done. We can actually test these out now. So I've already got everything set up. So you can see I've got the URL, and this is a post request. So we'll start with this one. So this will create a post. I'm going to change this to false for now. So if we run it first actually. So npm, let's just build it first. Npm run build. So we don't actually have a dist folder at the moment, but now that we've run that, we actually do have the dist folder. So now it's ready to run. So we can npm run dev, and that should work, hopefully. There we go, no errors found. That's the first. So we can actually create a post here. So I'm using Insomnia, by the way. You can use Postman or whatever you want to use for this. So we do a post request to localhost 3000/posts, and we're going to use JSON, and it's just going to have title and then test title, published false. So if we send that, there we go. So it's created a post. Let's create one that is basically the same, but with published true. So now we can do get all posts, which is the same URL /post, but instead it's going to be a get request, and we send that. As you can tell, we've only got one post back because we're only getting posts where published is true, which is good. Get a post by ID. So again, we can do post /2, and we get that, or we could change that to 1, and we can get the post with the ID of 1. So now we can update a post. So if we do posts /1 title and then changed title, send that. As you can see, we got changed title. I think we could also pass in published. Oh, I need to be in quotation marks. So published and then true. So we can actually publish this post. And then, yeah, it changes published to true. So then when we do get all posts, it should get that one as well, which is good. So we've also got delete post. So we've got the ID of 2 here. So /post /2 delete. And let's see. That seems to have. Has that worked? Oh no, that's not worked. Hang on a minute. I think. Yep. So res.send status 200. I forgot to send a response. That's why it's broken. Sorry about that. So just add res.sendStatus 200 just to say that it's been deleted. And we'll try that again. Hang on a minute. Prisma. Oh, hang on a minute. Yeah. So yeah, that has actually done it. So if we do change this to 1. Yeah, so it did actually delete the post. It just didn't return any response. So yeah, we couldn't delete 2 because it had already been deleted. So yeah, change that to 1 and then delete that one. So let's just create another post quickly because we want to do this final one. So get a user's posts. If we send that, that's just /users /1/posts, and then we've got a user's posts. So that is pretty much it. Really, really good. I've really enjoyed Prisma so far. I'm really excited to use it on future projects. I think whatever code base I do in the future, whatever projects I work on, I'm using Prisma. I really like Prisma. I would recommend looking at the documentation and really getting to grips with how to use it. There's a lot to it. The documentation is just full of stuff. I've covered the basics in this video, but there's so much more to it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said earlier, I've got a project-based video coming up at some point in the future. It's quite a big undertaking. It's not something I've done before, a video that's that big. So I'm still planning it out and stuff and writing the code for it, but that should be coming up soon. I'll put it on YouTube completely free, so you'll be able to hopefully learn how to create full stack applications using basically what we did in this video, plus Next.js for the front end, which will be really good. And also dependency injection, turbo, that kind of thing. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, make sure you subscribe. I think it's going to be a really good video. But I'll probably have other stuff coming up in the meantime, just smaller videos, just going over, interesting topics. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.